we've been talking about redistricting and the controversy around it and some of the protest and outrage. And right now we're being joined by our congressional representative, Sylvia Garcia. She represents the 29th District. She is joining us now because we've been talking about what the Democrats can do and what they've promised to do in the wake of the special session and congressional redistricting.
Thank you for having me, and it's been between meetings and a lot of things here, but obviously for us, Democrats from Texas, were very concerned about the misplaced priorities of our governor. He's got, I think, 18 items on the agenda. At the very beginning, it's about flooding and flooding alerts and what we can do to fund, mitigate, and that's what he should be doing, because Texas is still grieving. Texas is still hurting. We're still seeing some funerals, and we're still seeing, some services and memorials for the many children that died as a result of the flooding in the Hill Country. But instead of being focused on flooding and saving children and putting people over politics, no. He takes a call from Donald Trump, who I call the felon in the White House. He takes a call from Donald Trump. Donald Trump says, I want 5 more Republican districts coming out of Houston because we're concerned about how we're going to do nationally in this midterm election. So you need to add to your agenda in the special session, an item on redistricting. And when Donald Trump calls Greg Abbott, he just asks, how high do you want me to jump this time? So here we are in the middle of a special session that should be about people and not about politics. And we're going to be facing hearings beginning this weekend. And we're beginning to face them, you all, without having maps. They haven't released maps. So I don't know what, it's a sham. I mean, why would we have hearings when we can't even comment on what the lines are? That's where we are, and it's all just a result of the felon in the White House has his quest for power. He wants to stay in power. He does not want a Democratic majority to block any of his nonsense.
I do want to help folks understand, too, just to clarify, you are a U.S. representative that serves us in Washington, representing us,
Right.
And that this redistricting is happening on the state level in the State House here in Austin. But your district is one of the ones that they are looking at redistricting. So I want to clarify that. And that's why you definitely have a horse in this race, but also for representation for our communities. It's very important to you.
Well, Ernie, you're absolutely right, because while the Justice Department letter said we need to look at these 4 districts, all they targeted in the letter are 4 minority urban districts. It's myself, Al Green, the vacant Sylvester Turner seat, that's 3 in Houston, and then Marc Veasey in Fort Worth. So keep that in mind, because they're suggesting that these districts were based on race. Now, it's important to remember that, because that's what the Department of Justice is saying, to say we are now having to go look at them. In the meantime, and Abbott is agreeing with him, he's added it to the session. In the meantime, the state is in El Paso as we speak on a case from the current maps, and they're in court. Abbott and all his witnesses are saying, oh no, we didn't do this based on race. Everything has been, race blind. So in court, they're saying, oh no, we didn't do it on race. But then when the felon in the White House calls, they say, oh, okay, we'll do it. So they're really talking from both sides of their mouth. But more importantly, too, people need to remember, we learned this in civics class. A redistricting comes after every census, every 10 years. This one they're doing in the middle of the decade at 5 years, which is almost unheard of. And currently, we're the only state in the nation doing it in the middle of a decade. The last time it happened, I think, was in 2003 when Tom DeLay withdrew districts and created all the big changes. Well, people are going to have to brace themselves, because the White House, the felon in the White House, has not released maps. So we're expecting maps based on what someone in Washington thinks, not what we the people think on the ground in Texas. And I think that's just outrageous.
Well, wouldn't it be illegal to gerrymander on the basis of race?
Well, it depends, and a lot of it has to do with the Voting Rights Act and whether it's a protected district or not. So I can tell you that the maps that are being litigated and the maps that we're going to look at now, there were maps that were approved by the governor, but now he wants to look at his maps again because the fellow in the White House has asked him to. There's no other reason to do it but that.
Congresswoman Garcia, can't this backfire on Republicans? If you're going to redraw these maps, aren't you going to take away some of those Republican votes and move them somewhere else so that these blue and red districts might look a little more pink or purple?
You're absolutely correct, and that's the risk they run. And we hear, and there was a report recently, I think it was yesterday before yesterday, in the Texas Tribune, where they recount the story of how all this evolved. It says clearly that Republicans generally, and even some of the members up here told us after they had their meeting up here with the White House folks, that they weren't really keen on it because once you go in there and look at these 4 districts, any changes impact all the districts about it. It's like a domino. It goes from these lines to these lines, and before you know it, they're looking at the whole state of Texas. And whoever may be your member of Congress now may not be your member of Congress when you go to the ballot box to vote for him or her in November. Yeah. This is seen as many as a pretext to go in there and change districts, and that in fact they're going to look at and making changes in the Rio Grande Valley, in Austin, in Dallas, and other places. So you're absolutely right. It's a domino effect, which means it puts everybody at risk. They'll take Republicans from a Republican area to make a new Republican area. So that makes a positioned Republican district less Republican, which means it's in play. It's competitive.
They're trying to build
trust
up.
Me, the Democrats will go after every competitive seat, and the Republicans know that. So they're a little apprehensive about this.
It's basically the theory being that if they can get more Republican seats from Texas and across the country, wherever they can, it increases their numbers in the U.S. House of Representatives, therefore giving him stronger control there and more of a voice for the Republican Party, not necessarily reflecting the people.
It's a power play. It's a power grab. Because remember, we're currently 219 Republicans and 212 Democrats. But on many votes, the big ugly bill, the one that strips 17 million people from health care and millions of hungry children without food through the SNAP program, the cuts that they're making to Social Security and Medicare, that big ugly bill was won by 1 vote.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, we've had others where we've been tied. It's always close because there are always 1 or 2 Republicans who may vote on the Democrat side. So he wants 5 more to ensure there's enough cushion to always win, and more importantly, to offset losses that they're expecting in other areas of the country. Because in the midterms, the party in power always loses seats. I mean, that's just the way things work out in politics, because there's not a presidential nominee at the top to drive votes. So there's less votes, so the minority party makes gains. So they want to make sure they can offset those, because the last thing the felon in the White House wants is a Democratic controlled House, because then we would block all his initiatives.
We're talking to U.S. Representative Sylvia Garcia. If you'd like to join the conversation, 713-440-8870. Congresswoman, they say, and this is, I guess, as much a comment as a question, that the blue states will try to counterbalance by redrawing so that they get Democratic districts drawn to balance out the Republican districts. But what we're losing sight of is that in Texas, we would lose Democratic voices like yours if this is successful.
You're absolutely right. And I've seen a map, and of course, it's not the official map because, again, it's not been released. We're actually going to do hearings without maps. Had me going, my district going all the way to Orange, Texas.
Oh,
That's
you're
on the
kidding.
border of Louisiana, y'all. Y'all know where Orange is. And I told them, I said, my district now and the people that I represent have nothing in common with Orange, Texas, except that on Go Astros days, we do wear orange.
So let me ask you this.
Okay, but they can do whatever they want to when it comes to gerrymandering, and they might, you all, because the governor has the votes. The Republicans control the Senate, the Republicans control the House, and we may end up maps that look like a piece of bubble gum in its bad day. Who knows? But you're absolutely right. In California, Minnesota, Washington, New Jersey, New York, all those governors have said, hey, two can play this game. If y'all are going to do that in Texas, well, we might do that in our states. And they may have to, y'all, because Democrats are going to have to meet the moment and fight fire with fire. We cannot sit back and watch them do this to people, because in the end, it's all about one person, one vote, and the mandate of what it takes to be our democracy. And we cannot put up with it. We will fight back.
Quickly, before we run out of time with you two, as I understand, you folks are going into or are in recess now, but that was called a little early because of concerns over a vote over the Epstein files. But in that, my understanding is so that there is some division within the Republican Party, and there are people that are willing to break away from what the president wants and desires. Do you see that in some ways as hopeful?
Well, I think it's hopeful, and I think I want to be hopeful that the files are released. I mean, I think it's good for transparency. It's good for democracy. It's about justice for all of those young women who may have been abused. They may have been raped. They may have been sexually assaulted. It's about making sure that there's justice for these victims. And in the end, it's like he campaigned on it for 4 years, promising everyone that one of the things he was going to do on day one, like so many other things he was doing on day one, was to release the Epstein files. Now, who knows what they're trying to hide? Who knows what's been redacted, what's been stapled and mutilated, until we see the files. And they need to be the FBI files. I don't know that a court is going to release any grand jury testimony. Often it's not their practice to do that. There's got to be really good cause to do that. So I think they just didn't want to have to vote on another amendment from us, the Democrats, this week. They have also put off anything with the discharge petition, and that's a procedural move where if a majority of us sign that we want to hear the resolution on the Epstein files demanding the release of the files, then they have to put it on the agenda. And we think there is enough votes there between, I think it's 11 Republicans that we hear are going to be willing to sign that petition, plus our 219 gets us over the top.
Well,
so instead of wanting to deal with that, they cancel votes tomorrow. They're going to send us home early. And at least for 30 days, we're not going to do anything about the Epstein files because Donald Trump wants us to go home and forget about it.
But I guess, and just because I know we're just about out of time, really quickly, the sign that there could now, because of this particular case, be a break in this monolith that was Republican voting, could that carry on to other things? Could this be the moment where there starts to be some breath there?
It might be. I'm hopeful that this would be the start of something new, if you will. But we just don't know. Is it just this one topic, or are they going to be willing to sit down and visit with us on other topics, especially topics like Social Security and veterans benefit, and the things that will help lower prices for the everyday American to make sure that life is more affordable because people are hurting. We are doing a lot of things here that impact people every day. And the top priority needs to be to make sure that life is affordable for the everyday American to succeed.
Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, thank you so much for joining us. And keep up.
You don't need to holler at me back. I always enjoy talking to y'all.
All right.
Well,
Keep
you're
up
on
your
a
good
break,
fight.
so come in and join us when you're back in Houston.
All
We
right.
have a place on our couch for you.
All right.
All right, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Coming up.